Hey everybody, it's me, Remy, the comic book poser, and I'm here today to welcome you to Enter the Poserverse. It's Monday, so you know that it's time to figure out which books that I really liked from last week's New Comic Book Day that if you missed, you should pick up on this week's New Comic Book Day. And to find out what my top books of the week are, you'll find out after this.
Hey, little girl, did you want to know a secret?
I got 5 on it. 5, 1, 2, 3, 4.
Alright, I thought last week was a really solid week of comics, that there was no book that I think when I went through and rated things on League of Comic Geeks that I put below a 4, and usually there's a tie-in that's real bad or a DC book that I don't like, you know, the occasional pick up off the table swing and miss, but I really liked everything that came out. So before we talk about my top 7 books from last week, there are 2 things that I want to remind you of. This Thursday night, you can find me live in 2 different spots. At 9 Eastern, you can find me over on Hydra Comics' channel, where we're going to talk indie comics. We were supposed to talk about Ice Cream Man last week, but we spent almost that whole hour together talking about what indie comics are to us. We had a debate about whether or not Image is an indie, etc., etc. And then at 10 p.m. Eastern, here on my channel, Thursday Night Live will be happening with special guest David Hazan, who is the author of the upcoming title from Mad Cave Studios, Nottingham, and that book is sick. So hopefully, I'll see you in one of those 2 spots throughout the week. I'm going to go with 2 honorable mentions. First up is Once and Future number 15. This is from Boom Studios. It's by Kieran Gillen, Dan Mora, and Tamara Bonvillain. This might have been my favorite book of the run so far. It gets back to the original story of, you know, all of these different family members trying to give birth and have certain circumstances surround their families so they can give birth to a Galahad, right? A Lancelot. All of these in the name of the classic Arthurian legend. And I really liked, you know, the play with Beowulf, looking at, you know, Grendel as a threat, looking at Merlin. But this book was real good, setting us up for that original play in the art. And then my second honorable mention is Terminal Punks number 3 from Mad Cave Studios. It's by Matthew Ehrman, Shelby Criswell, and Micah Myers. This book, I never know what kind of wild thing is going to happen from issue to issue in this one. So we see all-out battle between the forces surrounding the airport and all of the vape-flavored named monsters. We see a little bit more backstory into the band's victory of the Battle of the Bands that gets them to fly on the plane to New York. That I can't show you this page that I just flipped to because it's funny and it's, you know, a hell of a spoiler. But then we also get to figure out, is there maybe a potential threat within the walls of the airport as well. So this has been, if you're just looking for a good, like, 80s comedic horror kind of book, there's that. Like, it's not spooky horror, but like a bunch of wild monster stuff. That I think it's just real good, and Shelby smashes the art. Coming in at number 5 from Image Comics is Stillwater number 5. It's Chip Zdarsky, Ramon K. Perez, and Mike Spicer. The cover starts to highlight as crazy as this book is going to turn out to be, right? The end of issue 4, we find out about the welcoming committee and how they've come together and why exactly they may be at odds with the judge. We've learned how the new resident of Stillwater has potentially liberated the welcoming committee to do some work. You get to see things kind of lead up into a courtroom confrontation with the judge and the city council, right, in terms of wanting to change, you know, the norms, maybe being able to leave, that instead of the judge's unilateral control of everything, that the people get to vote, and then it just goes bonkers. I think the phrase that I posted on social media is there's a new meaning to the phrase bailiff clear the hall. That is wild. So I'm really liking how this book slowly increases the intensity in each issue. I'm really enjoying just everything that's going on. Coming in at number 4, also from Image Comics, is Philadelphia number 12. It's by Rodney Barnes, Jason Sean Alexander, Luis NCT, and Bill Sienkiewicz is on this book now. We know that things were building to a head in Philadelphia. I really like that we get to see more things kind of being done with Tevin. Again, that there's a really good kind of conversation with I think it's his grandmother at the beginning about his power. And then we see, the Sangsters and team descend upon a house where they think they can find Abigail Adams and the epicenter of the coming insanity. And the things that happened in the last 3 pages of this, damn. There's nothing that I can say that won't spoil it. But it's really, really good. And it sets up 2 major shockwaves for the beginning of the 3rd arc. So I've been really high on Philadelphia since issue number 1. I really think the end of the arc, of this 2nd arc, was better than the end of the 1st arc, and I thought that was pretty damn good. So, more. Coming in at number 3 from Aftershock Comics is I Breathed a Body number 1. It's by Zach Thompson, Andy McDonald, my hand is in the way, Triana Farrell, and Hassan Otsami Elhu. This is another, technology is bad book written by Zach Thompson, right? I talked about how much I loved Lonely Receiver. He wrote that. Come In to Me from Black Mass Studios, big fan, right? He also wrote that. This is in the same kind of vein of tropes playing with technology. I think that you see, really it's about this woman kind of grooming a social media star, and he is, the most followed person. The amount of money that the network makes off of the ad revenue and the viewership is something that's really, really important. And you find out that person is the company owner's son, but there may be something a little bit unnatural about him, and it all kind of goes back to this little pendant that we see at the beginning, that may be something that manipulates this person is the essence of their being, and we learn the repercussions of what happens if they were to take the necklace off. But really good. The art is amazing. I would immediately tell you, just based off of issue number 1, that I would buy the trade if there were process art or some sketch pages that I could see in the back of it, because I think this book is really, really good, and it's another home run for me from Zach Thompson. Coming in at number 2, also from Image Comics, Rain Like Hammers number 1. This is by Brandon Graham. This book just hits my sweet spot. So it follows the day of the life of one man in kind of this mega utopia technological plaza. Maybe it's somewhere in space based on some of the conversations, but it's about him kind of going through his daily life, where he's at, right? That he saves all of his money to get a really good meal on the day that his favorite show is on, and eventually he makes it outside of this place, and you start to wonder what he may experience from the world beyond. And showing you this kind of last panel is not a big spoiler of anything, because there's just a reveal and you go, wait, what? But I think this is an interesting story. I really like the art to this, that, you know, the style on the cover is indicative of the style that you see inside. I wasn't familiar with Brandon Graham before I read Rain Like Hammers, but I'm glad that on the back of this book I can find some of the other things that he's written, because I'm definitely intrigued to check it out now that I enjoyed this book this much. I think this is a 5 or 6 issue series, but it's, you know, you can see sheet thick. It's a double-sized issue, so it's a good bit to read, but it's real good. Coming in as my pick of the week was not just my best book for this week, but it was my top book that was released from Image Comics in all of 2020, and it wrapped up with its 6th and final book in 2021. From Scout Comics is Yasmin number 6 by Saif Ahmed and Fabiana Mascolo. I interviewed them on the Sunday before this book came out, and in downloading the video file on StreamYards, something got corrupted, so I'm trying to salvage as much of the interview as I can, because it was really interesting to talk about the pieces of this story that may come from Saif, looking at how this inspired Fabiana's, you know, artistic take on the creation of Yasmin, and we talked about a lot of interesting things from the process of creating the book, and I'm trying to get as much of it saved as I can. At the end, I'm trying to fix it. Hopefully I do, because they're both brilliant people, and you can see me ask them questions but be blown away by their answers. So what we get throughout book 6 is kind of two things. We get the story of what exactly happened for Yasmin, how she finally got out of Iraq, how she, you know, made it home. And then we get some more elements of her kind of becoming her own new self again. We see that she walks with a new confidence. She interacts with her family with a new confidence. Solid book, solid end to the series. I tweeted out that I cried because it does a lot of throwback to some of the initial issue where it talked about what exactly home is and how we perceive those things. And I think that was very, very well done that it got me. So what do you think? Are there any books that you know that I read that you want to know where I would have put them in the rankings? You disagree with what I thought about any of them? As always, let me know in the comments down below. Hopefully, I'll see you in... You'll see me, I'll see you in chats throughout the week. I'm trying to get more engaged with people again. That it's just been a busy couple weeks, but I'm back, baby. So as always, thanks for stopping by. Have a good one.
Hey, little girl, did you want to know a secret?
I got 5 on it. 5, 1, 2, 3, 4.